What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to episode 21 of the U.S.S. Enterprise D tutorial. I'm Zero Elite, and I just want to thank you very much for tuning in today's episode. And if you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button and helping me in supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. Um, Today we got a little bit of a long one. It's probably be the longest episode that we do this whole series, about 48 minutes. I was going to break this up into two episodes, and I've just decided that, you know what, I'm just going to burn right through it. So um, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. We're going to be closing up this back end on the Enterprise D, and we're also going to be adding the backbone that goes on top of it. So you can see I went one in with a cut, and we're going to be doing the same thing on this side. We're going to be stopping right at the cut line. Went one too far. There we go. And I think on this, we're just going to bring it straight across. Might have that back piece flat because we're gonna be building a backbone on top of it, so I could possibly get away with that maybe. But really my main concern at this point, if I do that, that this area right here might be kind of flat. But then again, with adding the backbone, like I was just saying, it'll give it some curvature where it needs it right in the middle. So you see I'm just going one up with the cut. As long as you're doing this, you can't make a mistake. We're just bring it straight across. Or we're just following the pattern of the cut line. Because I really want to try to get some things done today, because it's been taking a little bit of time to get the lower hull done. We're not even done with it. We got to do the deflector dish and some other things. So, I mean, we still obviously have some more things to do, which was really a deciding factor in why I decided just to do it all in one shot. Because otherwise this would have been two episodes just to finish this up. And I really want to get a move on because there's going to be a lot of episodes that we're going to be that I'm committing to for the Enterprise D. Not that I have an issue with doing, I'm perfectly happy to, but I'm not sure how many episodes this is going to go out to. It's more than likely going to be the most that I've ever done. I'm already at over 240 recording sessions so far, and I'm just really now getting to the point of starting to detail the inside of the ship. I just built out the center section of the inside of the saucer, and I'm kind of working my way out. And I've also gone down the lower hull and start working on engineering and trying to flesh all that out. But bear in mind that 240 number, that doesn't necessarily reflect 240 20-minute videos. Some of those can be 30 to 40 minutes. Some of those might be 1 or 2 minutes or 10 minutes or less. It really just depends because every single time that I do something on this build, no matter how long or short, I record it. So this way I can just add that in. If I need to edit it and incorporate it into another episode or vice versa, then that's what I'll do. But no, there's a lot to do on this ship, and it just I knew this was something I was going to be ultimately getting myself into. That this was going to be a long build, and so, I mean, if you're looking like to rush through this, I mean, I don't see anybody being able to do that on the Enterprise D if you're going to be building at this scale. It's just not really going to happen. You're not really going to be able to build one of these in a really short period of time. It's going to take some time and dedication to get it done. It's I've said this in the past. I've been working on the Enterprise D now since February, and I'm still not done with it. I could very well end up working on this for the next couple of months, and I don't have a problem with it. I'm having a blast building the ship, and taking that extra time is really going to help the ship stand out and get all those extra details in. And if something's not looking right, then those of you that have followed me on YouTube for a while, you know that if I'm not happy with something, I'm going to change it. And that's just kind of the way it is. Like, I've had a few people here and there that have said to me that, why did you change this or why did you change that? And long story short, they're building in survival mode. Now, this is something you could definitely do. You could build one of these ships in survival mode, but that's just kind of how I am. If I'm not happy with something, I'm going to make that change. I'm not one of those people that, well, I built it out, so I'm just going to leave it alone, because my ADD will kick in and it'll just start bothering me until I change it, because I know that in my mind it doesn't look right. Um, but I also think that's one of the reasons why my ships turn out the way that they do, because I have that attention to detail. And when you start maybe being your own worst critic and saying, okay, this is what I could have done better, it kind of forces you to become a better builder, because you're trying to come up with different ways of building something. I do want to get back in this. You can see I'm getting rid of my backbone here, because now we're actually overlapping it, which really isn't a big deal, because this outline here was really just meant always to be here as an outline. So I'm not really committed to this at all. At this point, the shape that we've developed on the sides here, this is the shape that I'm going with. And that old backbone, that was just more of a loose reference to give us an idea. So that's okay. We can get rid of that. But we're just continuing on going with the cut line and filling in everything in the middle on each cut row. And as long as you're staying with your cut pattern, there can be no mistakes. But yeah, this is going to be definitely, it's going to be a long build. And like, it's something I'm probably going to end up doing more research for this build than I've done for any other ship. Because we have the benefit of having 7 seasons of Star Trek: The Next Generation, also not counting one movie. So there's a lot of content that we can go off, and a lot of rooms and whatnot. So if there's rooms that you want to see me build on the Enterprise D, you never know. Might be something that maybe I wasn't intending to build, but if it's something that I think is cool, you never know. I might just incorporate it into the ship, because I definitely need ideas. Because even with having 7 seasons in one movie, there's not as much content as you would think for the Enterprise D. I had to pull concept art from Star Trek Online, even stuff that they never ultimately did for the Enterprise D, just to give me some extra inspiration on rooms that I wanted to do. So definitely drop those comments below. Let me know what rooms you want to see me add while I'm still working on it. Because here's the thing: once I finish the interior and I call this thing done, um, I'm really not going to be revisiting the Enterprise D unless there's something that's so I feel important that needs to be added or changed to the ship. I'm just going to leave it alone. And since this is kind of, I guess you'd call it a legacy ship, because at this point, Next Generation, it's not getting any younger, and they're not really using the Galaxy class design in Star Trek anymore. So we're more than likely not going to be getting more new material for it. So once I'm done with this, we'll be done, and I'll be moving on to something else, which is probably going to ultimately end up being Voyager. But I don't want to commit to that until I start working on my next ship. So if that's the ship you want to see me build next, be sure to drop a comment below. Let me know how you feel about it. Or if there's something else you want to see me do, let me know in the comment section. Definitely love to hear from everybody, even if it's just to stop by and say hey, or if you even have a question. I'm usually pretty responsive in the comment section. I'll try to help you out if I can. But no, we're just building this thing out, and it's actually getting exciting, because I'm finally starting to close in this middle piece that has kind of been lingering now for the last couple of episodes. And now you can get a good idea on why I waited to fill it in, because I used our sides here to dictate how it was going to end up ultimately looking. Um, so I'm using the build cues that we have around to influence how this back area is going to look, which is something that I do anytime I'm building a ship. You always want to try to bring it all together cohesively. And I knew that once I started filling in the sides and bringing it up, that I could ultimately, just kind of fill that in to the point of making it all come together off of the cut lines that we had established on the sides. Now you can see we're going to deviate from the lower hull just for a minute, and we're going to add in half slabs on the neck. Um, we may end up even coming back to the neck, because I'm not going to lie, like this area of the neck, I was never fully satisfied with. And I've made a couple of changes, and you're probably going to see me whiz by here again, maybe at least one or two more times. Just make real subtle, small changes to it. Um, but I was never fully satisfied with how it looks, even now where I'm currently at in my build. But I mean, that may happen to you that you might just be thinking that, hey, I'm just not happy with how it's looking. And if that's the case, make a copy of your save file, then go and make a change to it. And if it doesn't look right, you can always delete that save and go back to your previous one. That's something I do all the time. And when I want to test things out off camera, that I'm not sure about, or if I just want to start recording and see how it goes, I'll make a copy of my save and I'll go right into it. And if it doesn't look good and I don't like it, not a big deal. I can just delete that recording session and just delete that save file and go back to the last one. But having those extra recording set or save files can definitely help you and experimenting and trying new things. So now you can see here that I'm moving up and again going with the cut line, and we're just going to bring this all the way across and just fill in the sides. We'll obviously have to make a little bit of tweak there to the neck to make that all come together right there. But for right now, we're just going to fill this in. Might even have to go on the underside to do that part. Not gonna lie, what I'm actually looking forward to is when the full outside of this thing is done so everybody can see it. But if you want your spoiler, be sure to check out the teaser of the Enterprise D, the full teaser, because I show what the ship looks like pretty much more or less where we're at right now. Because I really haven't made too many changes to the outside of the ship as of yet, other than fleshing out my shuttle bays. Now, with that being said, I do 110% plan on doing another pass around the outside of the ship and adding in all those little details that the ship has. Um, I haven't decided if I'm going to add the Aztecing on the outside of the ship. I may very well end up leaving it as far as the Aztecing goes, because that was something that I messed with on my Enterprise A refit, and it could be done, but it's not easy to build that out where it looks good consistently going through the ship. So for that reason, I may end up skipping the Aztec and sticking with the cream white look that we have going on right now, because my pretty much my argument on it is that from a distance, you really, when you're looking at the Enterprise D on the show or in the movie, you really can't see that Aztecing unless you're really close. So that's something we might not end up doing, but all the windows and the pinstriping and escape pods and things like that, you can definitely expect us to add that on this ship. I know that like when I did the Disco Air Enterprise, we had windows on it, but not as many as you'd probably expect. On the Enterprise D, I don't think I'm really going to be able to get away with that too much. I don't think I'll have as many windows that's on the actual Enterprise D. I'll probably have a little bit of less, but still, it's gonna have there's gonna have to be a ton of windows on this. And what I'm probably ultimately going to have to do is maybe facade some rooms out in areas that maybe I don't even have rooms, just to make it look like there's more windows, which is something that I can definitely show you how to do. Um, because no matter what we do, and even if we go in and if I built every single room out that was ever on the show in the movies, you're still probably going to be at like maybe 65% of the ship not being filled in. So that's just something to think about when you're building these ships out, and getting creative and maybe trying to add in some areas that weren't necessarily on the show. And I've got something, I might have something for you guys down the road as we get into the interiors. I've already spoiled it talking about the mall. That's going to be one of the things that's going to be on the Enterprise D, because Enterprise D did in fact have a mall. So you have to think of it like this: the Enterprise D is more or less a moving city. It's got 1,000 families living on board. So I found the concept art for the Enterprise D, and then I found a page that had the concept art of it, and I found all this stuff that they never got a chance to do for the show, and that was one of the things I found, and I just started thinking like, even the stuff that they didn't make concept art for, I can just really start thinking of everything that you'd expect to see in a city, and maybe think of what I can incorporate from that. into the build. So I haven't really gotten that far yet on it because I'm still working on engineering presently, but something that I'm thinking about. What other areas that I can flesh out and incorporate? Um, because I think that'll be pretty cool and also be appropriate too, because it's not all they don't know they didn't spend all their time in the holodecks. I mean, yeah, they had a lot of episodes in TNG that really focused on the holodeck, and those were some of my favorite episodes. But nonetheless, the Enterprise D had a ton of things to do on it other than the holodeck, which I think is pretty cool. Because it gives us a lot of inspiration on different things that we can build. But we'll kind of see what happens. Like I said, if there's stuff that you guys want to see me do, be sure to drop that comment below. Let me know what you want me to build on this ship so that I can maybe incorporate that into my build while I'm still working on the Enterprise D. But right now, we're looking pretty good. We are closing in the last of our lower hull, and you can see again, I'm just going with a cut line and I'm just bringing it all the way up to the front. And I think I stopped at this point because my battery might have died, and I switched it out and I'm in good shape. It's usually one or two things that happen when my controller stops. Either my battery died, or my girlfriend asked me something and I'm answering a question. More than likely. But now we've got a great sense once we look down, and you'll be able to see just how big of an area that we'll have to work with on the interior of this lower hull. It's going to be huge. And that's one of the things I'm really looking forward to also, because the deflector control room on the inside is going to be massive. And there's going to be a couple of these rooms on the ship that there's just going to be these massively scaled rooms. And it's really going to give you a sense of how big this thing is. And that's something that I really haven't necessarily been able to do with some of my other builds. Um, and I'm actually looking here as I actually caught a mistake, because right there, going with the cut line, I should have maybe gone up by one more, which we might end up doing, but I might leave it as it is. I don't know. I think the main thing at this point is to make sure it's the same on both sides. So this last cut, I think I'm going to skip that, and it's just going to be 3 flat going across. All right. Finally, for the first time in this build, the lower hull has been closed in, with the exception of the front. Still got some work to do on the neck as well, but we're getting there. So far, we're looking pretty good. I know it's getting a little dark right here in this area. I apologize for that. I usually throw down the sea lanterns to help out with that, but trying to figure out that cut line there, you can see, or the half slabs, and having that blend in with the neck. I'm going to bring that all the way back to the cut line. Actually, got a little bit more to do. Two more, one. All right, we're in good shape. So I brought up to the cut line right here. This is the first cut line we're going to be bringing that up to. You can see the important thing is the way this slopes. Um, that looks just like the Enterprise D. It's looking really good. And we still have a little bit of time left in today's episode. We've got roughly about um, just over 29 minutes. So we've got a little bit of time just to hang out today and get some stuff done. Like I said, I try not to do videos this long, but I was presented with either breaking this apart, and I didn't want to do that. So we're just gonna roll with the punches today and just get it out in one shot. So now we're gonna do our backbone, and again, I'm going with a cut, and we're just gonna be bringing this going all the way down the backside. This is gonna be kind of our template for a backbone. I want to make sure that we're not passing our cut line. So every time I do that, I got to go back, fix that. Okay. So far, we're in good shape. Now you can see what I mean with the backbone that we're going to be adding here. It'll help make the middle part a little bit more rounder, which won't make this shelf essentially that we added, the close in this middle part here, won't look so flat. And I think what we're going to do now is we're going to make this 3 wide total, so we're going to add a row on each side of the backbone that we just made. Okay, we're in good shape. Now we just have to go up and do the same thing on the left side now. Remember, going by that rule, if we do one thing on one side, we got to do it on the other. Otherwise, this is how mistakes happen. Yeah, no, I'm definitely really getting excited for when I can show off some of these interiors. I think, if anything, the mall is one of the things I'm most excited to do because I did a twist with it. And I don't want to talk about it because, for one, I won't have stuff to talk about later. But there's some pretty cool stuff I was able to do with that mall, and how I was able to incorporate some things into it, which we'll get into. But building this ship has definitely been no easy task. It's definitely taking a lot of planning and time and doing research to get where we're at right now. And it'll be like that going forward. You have to think too, I mean, it's definitely good to do research when you're building these ships because if you're trying to go for accuracy, um, it can pay off because you're selling um, you're really selling the look of the ship and how it's all coming together. And I mean, if you're not so worried about that, I mean, that's not necessarily a huge deal. And I wouldn't say that when I've built my ships that I'm trying to go for one accuracy. I say, for if anything, I'm trying to stay as close as I can to the Enterprise D while using the space that I have to work with, and also maybe having just a little bit of my own creative influence in that, because sometimes I do kind of like to deviate here and there, where I feel that it's necessary, and do some things. Um, Now this is something that you can see I'm doing right here, where I'm kind of building like a bracket to go over this cut line. The reason I'm doing that right here is because if you compare this row right here to this one, and this is something I'm looking at right now, which one do I like better? And I don't know what it is, but when I look at this row right here, this looks kind of sloppy to me. Because, I mean, we're following our pattern as we go from this row to this row, but this first row right here, it doesn't really match up. So that's why I added these extra blocks here, here, and then the 3 going up top, because it makes it feel more connected that it's one piece. Now, the only downside to that is that we're going to have one block hanging out right there. But I think that's going to be worth it in the long run to really having this thing come together, at least in the backbone area. Because this piece that we're building out right now, this is all going to lead into the shuttle, or not the shuttle, the torpedo bay that's on the rear end of the Enterprise D. And you can see every row here, like on that cut line, it doesn't look all that great right there. But this one right here, I think that looks the best. So I think that's what we're going to do. And believe it or not, this is what I do a lot of the times when I can't make up my mind. I'll build it one way on one, and then the other one, I'll try something different, and then I'll look at the two and decide which one I like more, and then I'll go from there and make a decision and make, either keep it the way it is or I'll change it. But that's definitely a great thing to do when you're building these ships from scratch, especially if you're at a point where you're not necessarily sure exactly of what you want to do. Build some alternatives, and if you're worried about messing up your work, again, make a save of that file, an extra save, so you have it, so you have something to fall back on if you don't like the change that you made. Um, but you'd be surprised, doing variations like that from time to time. It can really come in handy in helping you in solving a problem. Because sometimes, if I'm not happy with how something looks, I'll build it differently just for the sake of building it differently. And you never know, you might end up falling up on something, or should say, falling on something that you're much more happier with. You can see this last row, I'm bringing that up by one because I know that when I ultimately have to add this torpedo bay area, and this is going to be a work in progress. We'll get there though. You see, this is the third way that you've seen me built it. So I'm using, literally just now doing what I just told you guys to do yourselves, that build it a different way, see how it looks, and just keep messing with it until it comes up the way that you want it to look. And I guarantee you, at one point or another, you're going to fall on something that comes out the way that you wanted it to. It just might take a little bit to get there sometimes. I almost think of it like shipbuilding can be like working with clay sometimes. You just got to keep molding it until it comes out exactly the way that you want it to. And sometimes that can take a little bit of finessing. It's no different when we're building with blocks on Minecraft, because in some ways, building with these blocks, it can be very restrictive. Because we're taking a 3D shape and we're trying to turn it into basically pixel art, is more or less what we're doing right now. And sometimes that doesn't always translate well over into Minecraft, taking a fully formed 3D object and making it into pixel art. Sometimes it doesn't always transition well, and you gotta make tweaks here and there really to make it work within the rules of how Minecraft is set up with the blocks. I do think, though, this extra bar that we're adding as we're going to each cut line, I think that this is going to look fantastic. Like I said, the only downside that we're going to have is that there's going to be one block on the sides sticking out. But that's okay. It doesn't look bad. This is just going to be one of the like the slight, ever so slight variations uh, from how the Enterprise D would look, because it doesn't have those brackets kind of like on the side. This is more of like a smooth shape. But again, we're dealing with the blocks, and there's really not that all that much that we can do about it. This is kind of one of those things. So you can see now here we kind of got to make some changes because I'm bringing it gradually down, going block to block with the half slabs. And I'm just building it out at this point. If I can get that block to place where I want it to. Okay. You see how I did that? At this point, I literally just went with the cut line. This is something else that you've probably have heard me talk about. When in doubt, go with the cut line. And that's what I'm doing right here. Now that I've gotten to this point where it's like, oh, okay, this is kind of hanging up a little bit higher from where I just built out this torpedo room. When all else fails, go with the cut. And when you go with a cut, it can start to help you in dictating how that should be and how it should look. I do think that looks pretty solid. The one thing that we're not going to be able to do with the backbone, which is kind of a downer, and this is one of the reasons why I wish that they had colored half slabs, is that we're not going to be able to do. There's like a red stripe going along the backbone, all the way up like through the neck, all the way down to the tail, and unfortunately, we're not really going to be able to do that on this Enterprise D because we're using the half slabs. It'll look weird, and I don't understand why Mojang they just don't add it in, because when you load up Minecraft, they tell you if you have any suggestions, go on their page and make a suggestion. I think I've talked about this at one point. I went on there and I went to make a suggestion on the colored half slabs, and I was shocked when I'd seen that there were over 10,000 people that had upvoted somebody else's suggestion on doing colored half slabs. And not to say that I don't like the content that they're adding in Minecraft, but it kind of feels like Mojang's just kind of adding, you know, random things that people aren't necessarily asking for. Like with this last update, I thought that the cave update was very needed, because I, just my own opinion, I thought that while the caves, when the best part about them would be when you hit a dungeon, and so I can definitely see the appeal and why they added these caves, the cave update. But with that being said, like, we need the colored half slabs. Like, that needs to happen. A full spectrum of colors, and then also the concrete half slabs in a full spectrum of colors. And I think that would make a lot of people happy, not even just myself, because it would really open up the door for different types of things that we can build on Minecraft. And just with my ships on here alone, I'd be able to blend in areas and make it work at a degree that I really just haven't been able to in the past. So you can see here that I really have just gone through here and added a whole other layer of half slabs because I'm trying to make this all blend in just a little bit better. Now, since I did that going all the way up until we got to the neck, we're going to have to blend in the sides a little bit more, but we will. Don't worry. We're going to come back and work on that. The easiest thing to do is just add another layer of half slabs with a cut, or may even delete them and add a block in its place. But it'd be easier just to add the half slab on top of them to eliminate something in your build process. Because at this point, I'm trying to figure out what I can do, really the best course of action to take. And I think that might be what's best. We're just going to have to add like a couple more layers on the sides here to get the cut lines to match up, going with the half slab. So like this, we just bring that going all the way down to the cut. Of course, it's giving me problems. I'm going to have to individually place them instead of spamming it. The same thing on this side. Now what we're going to have to do again is we're going to have to add another row of half slabs now going along the sides. Which I think that this is going to help because it's going to beef in the backbone up just a little bit. Maybe the backbone was slightly too small before, and now having it a little bit thicker, I think it's going to work out in its favor. All right, now you can see that we're going to be adding the half slabs going along here because, again, I'm using the cut As a reference, when in doubt, use the cut line. This is definitely helping and dictating where I'm going to put blocks because I'm going with the half slab cut at this point instead of the full slab. Grab one more on the side so we get our brackets back so we don't have that full block sticking out. I'm just zooming out, looking at it, comparing this upper side to this lower side. To me, this upper side that we just did blends in so much better than with how the lower side's looking. All right, now let's do the same thing on the other side. Again, using the cuts as a reference. And when you start to adopt these rules, it becomes very hard to make your mistakes, especially since we're basically free building at this point as we're going row to row, going down the neck. And now that I'm using the rule of going with the cut on the half slabs, it really makes it very, very simple to build this out because now we know what the blueprint is. And something else I've talked about, people ask me what my blueprint is. It's all in your patterns. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. You start to determine your patterns, and in this case, going with the half slabs, but the configuration is this backbone that we have. It could be anything. But when you start to identify those patterns, it can start to make it very, very easy in what you're building. So hopefully, and especially after watching this episode, maybe you learned a thing or two on doing your patterns. Um, because at this point, I'm not one of those people that I conceal my secrets as far as shipbuilding. I think that's and it's funny when I first got into shipbuilding. This was like one of my main reasons on why I started building ships on Minecraft. Um, well, it's not. Well, I should let me rephrase. My main reasons on why I started doing tutorials on Minecraft because for one, everybody that I could find that had a tutorial up, all they were doing was just sitting there talking about a finished ship that was already built. And they're not even showing you how to do anything. And two, those people that you turn around and ask them a question, they don't want to tell you anything because they're afraid of losing subscribers or they're afraid that somebody else is going to come and build a ship better than them. And to me, I think that's the most ridiculous thing ever. Like if somebody watches one of my videos and they learn how to do something on here and if they turn around and did it better than me, as far as I'm concerned, I consider that a compliment because I gave them a pointer in the right direction. I'd never take credit for something that somebody else did because at the end of the day, that would be their build. But if I can help somebody to get to that point, that's really one of the main reasons why I do this, other than the fact that I really enjoy shipbuilding. And it's something that I think more people should really get into because it's so relaxing, especially with now how stressful things are. You know, when I play Minecraft, my just kind of like my brain almost doesn't necessarily shut down. It just shuts down my part of the brain that thinks about everything else that's going on other than what I'm doing right here in this moment. And for me, I used to really, when I was younger, I used to build a lot of models. And it's funny because where I was living at my current, because right now I live in an apartment, and before that I was living in a house. And I had access, to a yard and things. I build my models and spray paint, and I paint them and all that stuff. But I can't do that anymore. I don't have the access to it, which kind of sucks. But I'm getting that creativeness out of the shipbuilding on Minecraft. So I mean, it's really in some ways it's not all that dissimilar from building a model. You're just building it from scratch at this point, and you're using blocks. You can look at it that way, and it's digital and it's less messy. So I mean, in that sense, I mean, I'm kind of cool with it because I can still, fulfill my creative desires on here, I guess you could say. Yeah, see, that looks pretty good now. I think what we have right here on that backbone is a heck of a lot better than what we had just a couple of minutes ago. The butt of this area right here that we're working on, we're going to be messing with that a little bit off and on. We still have about 9 minutes left. We'll see how far we get in today's episode, but from what I recall, I think that there's going to be a little bit of tweaking here and there. But anyway, right now we're going to come back and we're going to go in the middle and we're going to do another pass and we're just getting rid of a half slab. So if you're deleting a block and it gets rid of a full slab, go back, add a half slab on top of that, like right here. And as we're going down each row with the cut, we want to transition that half slab cut line in the middle. Now, if we had red in the half slabs, this very middle part here on this section is where it'd be going. And as we went up the neck, it would actually be on each side of it, the left and right. But unfortunately, since we don't have the red half slabs, I'm not really going to be able to do that. I could use another brick, but you're not really going to see that burgundy red on the Enterprise D. It's really like a true red, and it would stand out like a sore thumb if we used it. So that's kind of one of my reasons on why just leaving it white, because I have two colors that I can play with, either white or gray. And maybe we might go back and add gray just to give it something in the middle. But I do wish that we had the red, because this would just be one of those little detail accents that I can add in that really it would help with the look of the ship. But man, look at that cut line on the middle there. It really helps to give some shape to this area on the ship, and it blends in really nicely. Because before, this whole middle piece here, it was very flat, you know? But I think she's definitely looking really good right now. So now this cut line that we have here, I'm going to transition this going up the back of our neck of the ship. Again, I'm going by the same rule that we've already pre-established. We're just going with a cut that's a half slab. If it's anything more than that, then you need to add a block. So like in this case, it's more, so we need to add one. As long as you're following that rule, you can't make a mistake. 9 times out of 10 when I'm building on Minecraft, I have a rule that I go by. And it's all in the purpose of stopping myself from making errors. And you might come up with your own rules as you're doing your builds as you go. And I'm telling you, it's helpful because it can be very easy on here to make a mistake and not even realize that you just made a mistake. And this is one of my main reasons on why I have all these rules while I'm doing my builds. It's almost like a safety net to stop myself from making a possible error. And even then, with all these rules that I'm setting for myself as I'm building, you can still make a mistake. So that's just one of the things to think about when you're building your ships. You know, take your time and kind of predetermine a set of rules that you want to go by, or develop them as you go, and just make certain decisions on things that you're not going to do, or maybe traits and things that you're going to repeat while you're building that ship to help you get that extra level of detail that maybe you weren't getting if you weren't taking that extra bit of care. Because I'm telling you, it makes a difference. It really does. And if you go back to my YouTube channel and watch from the beginning, my first couple of videos, and just don't necessarily maybe watch all of them, but kind of go through and look at some of my other builds that I've done, you'll really be able to see a testament of that, because a lot of these things that I'm doing now, this is stuff that I didn't always used to do on Minecraft. And like when I built the 2009 Enterprise, I probably worked on that ship for like a couple of years easily, and that was trial and error. And then I refitted it to the Enterprise A, and that I worked on that ship for a while. And between doing those two ships and the Vengeance, I developed all the steps and traits that you see me displaying through the course of this tutorial. And it makes a world of difference. It helps you get a level of accuracy that you would not get if you weren't paying this close of attention to the process in which you build your ships. It's all definitely in the process. So we're going the sides now and close in some of this gap here. I think I'm going to try to close in all of it and have it flat, but I think we might have to end up coming back to this and making a tweak to it because from what I recall, I think after I filled this all in, it was maybe a little bit too flat back in this area. But for the purpose of what we're doing right now, we're just going to fill all this in. You can see I'm only going up to the cut lines and I'm not building anything further back past that. And as long as you do that, you're in good shape. And now we're going to go over to the left side and repeat that same step. I suppose I could just fill this in going down to the bottom because we're probably not necessarily going to be building up to this point back here. We really only may be building up to where the rear torpedo goes. And I'm not even sure what we're going to do with that yet because I'm pretty confident that was one of the rooms that they just never showed on the next generation. So if I do ultimately do something, it's going to be completely made up. Yeah, now I'm actually excited to show this off now because now we can get a scale of how big of a space we have to work with. So even if we have some extra room left over, that's okay. But the point of this is that we have so much room in our lower hull that we're going to be able to do everything that we want to do with this lower hull and still have a little bit of room left. And I think that's definitely one of the most exciting parts about this whole tutorial, in fact, or this whole build for the Enterprise D, is that I'm really going to be able to do things with this ship that I haven't been able to do with any other ship. And that's pretty much exactly what I wanted to do. With every other build that I've done in the past, there's always been one or two compromises I made here, one or two compromises I made there, just because of room constraints. And don't get me wrong, there are one or two exceptions with the Enterprise D, but 99% of it, I'm going to have a lot of space to work with. And that's pretty cool. It's definitely an area or a position I really can't say that I've been in before with building on Minecraft. So, as much as I've complained about the length of time it's taken me to build this ship, it's been worth it in the sense that we're just going to have all this room, and this thing is just going to be a massive beast when it's done. And that definitely excites me a little bit because we're just going to have all this room basically to play with. I'm very, very anxious to see how this thing's going to come out, but at the same time, I'm not rushing it. It's better to take your time and do it right than make 50 mistakes. You can see the left side matches the right side. I think we're going to do one more right here. There we go. Not sure what we're going to do on this bottom side right here to make that blending going down. That's definitely going to be something that we need to address in making this all come together right here. Because we're definitely not going to be leaving it like that. That's for sure. What I am going to do is I'm going to continue the cut down these two sides on the middle here and just kind of see where we fall at on it. You can see that if I kept going, I'd go over the lips. So kind of what I'm getting at right there is I'm probably not going to bring it too far past where it's currently at least on these two sides. But then we also got to do the sides of the backbone down there, which we're obviously not going to have enough time to get to today. We've shot through 42 minutes and pretty happy with the progress that we've made today. We've pretty much completed the lower hull with the one or two exception minor things that we have to do. Reworking this area just a little bit, and then working on the deflector dish. But that'll be an episode for another day. Um, I'm definitely going to wrap this one up because I'm probably getting close to 15 minutes at this point. Anyway, I just want to thank everybody again for tuning in today's episode. If you did enjoy this content, please help me out. Hit that like and subscribe button, helping me and supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. New subscribers also, don't forget to hit notifications on so you get notified when those new videos drop. And speaking of new videos, you can catch my Minecraft videos dropping Tuesdays through Thursdays. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for me. I just want to thank you all again for tuning in today's episode. I hope everybody has a happy and safe week, and I'll catch you on the next episode.